Sugar destroys your brain just like drugs. Imagine something you consume daily without much thought, but which may be silently destroying your brain, much like dangerous drugs. Does that sound exaggerated? The reality is that sugar, so prevalent in our diets, activates the same brain circuits as substances like cocaine. The worst part? It not only fosters dependence, but also impairs essential functions such as memory, focus, and even emotions. If you believe that cutting sugar from your diet is merely a matter of willpower, you're underestimating the enemy. Have you ever wondered why it feels impossible to stop eating sweets at times? Or why you experience that mental fog after indulging in sugary snacks? Science now reveals that excessive sugar consumption can lead to significant brain damage, comparable to the damage caused by drugs, and the effects don't end there. Over time, this habit can contribute to the development of devastating diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. Alarming, right? But there is hope. The good news is that just as the brain can be damaged, it can also regenerate. With the right strategies, you can break free from this dependency, enhance your mental health, and protect your brain from future harm. Curious to know how? Stay with me, because over the next few minutes, you'll discover what nobody tells you about sugar and how to save your brain before it's too late. How sugar affects the brain. Sugar is one of the silent villains that manipulates the brain in ways that few truly understand. When we consume something sweet, the brain's reward system is activated, releasing dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure. It's the same mechanism that drugs like nicotine trigger. The issue is that over time, this pleasure is no longer sufficient. The brain starts demanding more sugar to experience the same satisfaction, initiating the cycle of dependence. What many don't realize is the critical difference between the natural pleasure provided by healthy foods, like fresh fruits, and the artificial pleasure generated by processed sugar. Nutrient-rich foods offer moderate but steady satisfaction. On the other hand, sugar provides an intense pleasure spike, followed by a drastic drop, which can only be resolved by consuming more sugar. It's like an addictive toy, easy to enjoy but hard to let go. Over time, this uncontrolled sugar consumption can permanently alter the brain circuits responsible for regulating impulse control and satiety. The same brain regions that should manage our appetite start malfunctioning. The result? A hard time stopping eating, even when we know we've had enough. It may sound exaggerated, but science has already compared sugar's impact on the brain to that of well-known addictive substances. The most alarming aspect is how these effects accumulate. People who frequently consume large amounts of sugar may be permanently damaging their ability to control their impulses. Have you noticed how hard it is to resist a sweet treat after the first bite? It's not a lack of willpower. It's the brain being trained to crave more. With each bite, the line between want and need becomes increasingly blurred. This vicious cycle creates a trap that's tough to escape. However, understanding how sugar affects the brain is the first step toward breaking the pattern. And believe me, sugar's influence extends far beyond fleeting pleasure. It also impacts your memory and focus, as we'll explore next. The impact on memory and focus. Sugar's influence goes beyond just triggering pleasure. When it comes to memory and focus, excessive glucose in the brain becomes a true saboteur. High sugar levels can lead to insulin resistance in the brain, which directly hinders the formation of new memories and learning abilities. This results in that familiar brain fog, a constant sense of confusion and difficulty concentrating on everyday tasks. Research shows that sugar-heavy diets impair neurogenesis, which is the process of producing new brain cells. This means the brain literally loses its ability to renew itself, directly affecting long-term cognitive health. People with high sugar consumption often struggle to concentrate and remain focused on specific tasks, particularly after the sharp energy drop that typically follows a glucose spike. A practical example is the sweet snack in the middle of the afternoon. Initially, it feels like the perfect pick-me-up to get through the rest of the day. However, what many fail to realize is that after the initial sugar high, there's a drastic crash. This leaves you lethargic, unfocused, and more likely to make simple mistakes. The brain, which initially seemed energized, enters a low-energy state, making it difficult to stay productive and make clear decisions. Moreover, Insulin resistance resulting from excessive sugar consumption is a key factor in long-term cognitive decline. The brain becomes less efficient at using glucose, compromising both memory and mental clarity. Over time, this resistance diminishes the brain's ability to store information and maintain focus for extended periods, complicating daily life. Though concerning, these effects are just the tip of the iceberg. The link between sugar consumption and neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia is gaining increasing attention, and the findings are nothing short of alarming. The link between sugar and neurological diseases. Science has uncovered an uncomfortable truth. Sugar not only harms memory and focus, but also acts as a potential trigger for serious neurological diseases. Recent studies have suggested a strong connection between sugar consumption and conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia. Some researchers even refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes, due to the relationship between insulin resistance in the brain and cognitive decline. This disturbing discovery completely shifts how we should view our diet. Sugar, especially when consumed in excess, elevates blood glucose levels, which can increase inflammation in the brain. This inflammation is one of the contributing factors to the formation of beta-amyloid plaques, which are associated with cognitive degeneration. In other words, the more sugar in the bloodstream, the higher the likelihood of these plaques forming, accelerating the brain's aging process and impairing essential functions like memory and decision-making. Beyond inflammation, excessive sugar intake is also linked to oxidative stress in the brain. This occurs when there's an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in the body, resulting in damage to brain cells. Over time, this process can lead to neuron death and weaken the connections between different regions of the brain, contributing to the onset of diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. A less discussed but equally significant aspect is the connection between sugar and hypertension. When left uncontrolled, hypertension can damage blood vessels in the brain, compromising circulation and the delivery of vital nutrients. This further raises the risk of cognitive decline. Imagine your brain as a machine that requires high-quality fuel to function properly. Contrary to popular belief, sugar is far from the ideal fuel. These effects are alarming, and understanding this link could be key to preventing neurological diseases in the future. However, reducing sugar consumption isn't easy, and often involves dealing with withdrawal discomforts, as we'll explore next. Sugar withdrawal symptoms. When someone tries to cut sugar from their diet, the withdrawal symptoms can be surprisingly intense. Much like with drugs, the body reacts strongly when deprived of its usual dose of dopamine, which is triggered by sugar consumption. Some of the most common symptoms include headaches, irritability, extreme fatigue, and an almost uncontrollable urge to eat something sweet. These reactions demonstrate how powerful sugar addiction can be, often underestimated. The brain goes into a state of crisis when it realizes it's not receiving the sugar it has grown accustomed to. Dopamine production plummets, leading to feelings of anxiety and stress. For many, this makes sugar withdrawal as challenging as withdrawing from substances like caffeine or nicotine. A person may even experience deep fatigue, as if the body is calling for a forced break just to recover its energy. One of the most common traps during this period is the tendency to seek quick substitutes for sugar, such as processed foods or those high in simple carbohydrates. However, this only prolongs the cycle of dependence. A classic example is people who, when trying to eliminate sugar, turn to diet sodas or artificial sweeteners, thinking it will solve the problem. But in reality, the brain continues seeking that dopamine spike, perpetuating the craving for more sugar. These symptoms clearly show that sugar isn't merely a treat in the diet. It's an element that, when consumed excessively, can enslave the brain. A practical example? Think about the challenge of resisting dessert or saying no to a sweet treat after lunch. This impulse is stronger than we might realize, and the withdrawal period can be long and uncomfortable, especially if not approached gradually and strategically. However, overcoming this initial phase is possible, and there are effective ways to reduce sugar consumption without suffering too much from the symptoms. The next step is to understand how to break free from this vicious cycle and adopt practical strategies to avoid relapses. How to break free from sugar addiction. Breaking free from sugar addiction may seem like a daunting task, but with the right strategies, it's entirely possible. The first step is to start replacing sugar-rich foods with natural alternatives. Fruits, for example, are an excellent choice. Besides offering a sweet taste, they provide fibers, vitamins, and minerals that help balance the body. Another option is to use natural sweeteners like stevia or xylitol, which don't cause the glucose spikes associated with refined sugar. Readjusting eating habits is also crucial. A balanced diet rich in proteins, healthy fats, and low glycemic index carbohydrates can help stabilize blood glucose levels and reduce sugar cravings. Imagine swapping that white bread at breakfast for a whole grain option, or adding avocado and eggs to meals to stay fuller longer. These small adjustments can make all the difference in controlling sugar cravings. Another important point is planning a sugar detox. A 30-day period may be enough for the body to recalibrate its dopamine levels and normalize cravings. During this time, it's essential to focus on whole, nutrient-rich foods that will nourish the brain without causing the highs and lows of sugar. During this detox, it can be helpful to avoid the candy aisles at the supermarket and prepare healthy snacks in advance to avoid falling into temptation. For those who like to track their progress, diet and health monitoring apps can be valuable tools. These apps help track sugar intake and observe how the body reacts to reducing this ingredient. It's like having a guide that shows you how far you've come and how close you are to reaching your goals. Additionally, they offer insights into what can be adjusted to stay on the right path. In the end, the most important thing is to adopt a gradual approach. Cutting sugar all at once can be painful, but reducing it slowly can make the process more sustainable. And by focusing on balanced and mindful meals, the path to breaking free from addiction becomes clearer and more achievable. Now that you understand the power of reducing sugar, the next step is seeing how this can directly impact your mental health and quality of life. Now that you know the devastating impact of sugar on your brain, what will you do about it? Will you continue feeding this addiction, risking severe neurological diseases, or will you take control of your health? The decision is in your hands. Think about the changes you can start implementing today, the small adjustments that will protect your brain and improve your memory, focus, and mental clarity. It's not easy, I know, but it's possible and worth it. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how different your life could be without the mental fog, without the constant irritability after consuming sweets? What would you do with more energy and a sharper brain? Start today by reducing sugar and opting for healthier alternatives. Your body, your mind, and even your future will thank you. After all, the knowledge you've gained now is the key to transforming your life. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to keep learning more about how to improve your health and ensure healthy aging. And speaking of which, if you're looking for ways to boost your brain and memory, don't miss our next video, where we talk about 7 foods to boost your brain and memory. I'm sure it will be as eye-opening as what you've just watched.